Someone says it's a turbocharged 2.0 liter making 250 horsepower, and you nod like you followed that. We've all done it. After 23 years on the tools, I've watched that nod cost people thousands at a dealership. In the next few minutes, that stops. Let's decode all of it. Start with the easy stuff, body styles, because everyone's got that one friend who calls every vehicle a sedan. A sedan is your classic four-door with a separate trunk. A coupe is that sedan minus practicality. 2 doors, sportier roofline. An SUV sits taller and hauls more, which is why families and snowbelt drivers end up in one. A hatchback's rear window lifts with a cargo door, SUV loading in a compact footprint. A pickup carries things and doesn't pretend otherwise. A wagon splits the difference, a sedan's ride with far more room behind the seats. Here's the part people miss. A wagon outhauls a small SUV while using less fuel and handling better. The market killed them anyway, which is exactly why used ones are a bargain. Now, this next number is the one dealerships know almost nobody understands, and they price accordingly. cc means cubic centimeters, and it's just engine size. Think of it in bottles. A 1.0 liter is a small one. A 3.0 liter is the big one on the shelf. Bigger usually means more power, though size stopped being the whole story years ago. Horsepower is speed. 1 horsepower is roughly the work of 1 horse pulling, so 200 horsepower means 200 horses under the hood. But here's the honest version. Horsepower sells cars. Torque is what people actually feel. Torque is the shove. If horsepower is how fast you'll eventually go, torque is what gets you moving from a dead stop. It's why a truck drags a loaded trailer up a grade without breaking a sweat. And it's why a 180 horsepower diesel can feel quicker than a 250 horsepower gas engine around town. The diesel makes it torque down low, exactly where you actually drive. RPM is revolutions per minute, how fast the engine is spinning. Press the pedal, hear it climb. That's RPM rising. More RPM generally means more power and more fuel burned, which means the number on your tachometer is really just a live readout of how fast you're spending money. Then there's turbocharging. An engine breathes on its own, the way you do jogging. A turbo is like jogging while someone aims a leaf blower at your face. It force feeds air. More air burns more fuel. More power without a bigger engine. That's how a 2.0 liter turbo matches an old V6. But the trade-off never makes the ad. It's one more part that can fail, living under heat and pressure its whole life. A turbo isn't a reason to walk away. It's a reason to demand service records before you sign. So the spec sheet, plain, cc is size, horsepower is top-end speed, torque is grunt, RPM is effort, and turbo is a shortcut that bills you later. This next term is responsible for some of the biggest repair bills in America, and it's my corner of the shop. The transmission delivers your engine's power to the wheels without wasting it. A manual is old school. You work the clutch and shift yourself. More control, more fun, more work in traffic. An automatic shifts for you, which is why nearly everything sold today is an automatic. But here's what almost nobody learns. Automatic covers 3 completely different machines. A traditional automatic uses a torque converter. Decades of refinement, and when it's built right, it outlives the car. A CVT, continuously variable transmission, has no fixed gears at all. It slides along a range, great for fuel economy. I'll be straight with you, CVTs are the most common transmission complaint I hear, and a failed one can cost more than the car is worth. Some brands sorted them out, others didn't. A DCT, dual clutch, shifts almost instantly, which is why sports cars use them, though they can feel jerky crawling through traffic. Here's the part to actually remember. 2 cars, same horsepower, same price. One with a proven torque converter, one with a shaky CVT. Those are not the same purchase, and 6 years from now, only one of them hands you a 4-figure bill. Power is decided. Now, where it lands changes on how your car behaves in weather, and most people buy the wrong one. Most everyday cars are FWD, front wheel drive. Power to the front wheels only. Cheaper, better on fuel, fine in normal conditions. Push one hard from a stop and the wheel might tug. That's a torque steer, and it's harmless. RWD, rear wheel drive, pushes from behind instead of pulling from the front. Better balance, better handling, which is why performance cars stick with it, and genuinely miserable in snow without weight over those rear wheels. AWD all-wheel drive sends power wherever grip is needed automatically. The reason an SUV shrugs off a bad morning, though it adds weight and drinks fuel. A 4WD is AWD's tougher relative, built for real off-road work, locking power to all four corners on command. But here's the trap. AWD helps you go in the snow. It does absolutely nothing to help you stop. Every winter, I see AWD drivers in the ditch, right past the front-wheel drive cars on good snow tires. Tires beat Drivetrain every single time. Speaking of stopping, the next system on your car saved your life at least once and never told you about it. ABS, the anti-lock braking system, is that vibration through the pedal in a panic stop. That's not a fault. That's the system pulsing the brakes faster than any human could, so the wheels keep turning instead of locking. Locked wheels can't steer. Pulsing ones can. Brake fade is when brakes overheat and stop biting. Sprint once and you're fine. Sprint again immediately and your legs are gone. Brakes are identical, which is why performance cars run ventilated discs that shed heat faster. Most modern cars use discs all around, though budget models still run drums at the back. Traction control stops your wheels spinning uselessly on slick pavement. Stability control is the bigger one. If the car starts to slide, it breaks individual wheels to pull you straight, faster than you can react. Required on new US cars since 2012. So if you've taken a wet corner too fast and thought that gripped better than I deserved, that wasn't you. Last piece, and this one's pure money. The easiest way to lose 15% of your fuel economy has nothing to do with your engine. It's the roof rack. A cargo box up top wrecks your aerodynamics, and at highway speeds, that alone can cost 10 to 25%. If you're not using it this weekend, take it off. That's free money almost nobody collects. MPG is miles per gallon, and that sticker number came from ideal conditions. Flat road, no traffic, no air conditioning. You get closer by accelerating smoothly instead of launching at every light, cruising around 50 to 60 miles per hour, and keeping tire pressure correct. Then, maintenance. And I'm not asking you to rebuild anything. Change the oil on schedule, usually every 5,000 to 7,500 miles. Oil is the only thing between metal and metal. Swap the air filter, because an engine choking through a clogged one burns more fuel for less power. Get brake pads checked the moment they squeal or feel soft. And most batteries live 3 to 5 years, so replace an old one on your terms instead of in a dark parking lot. Do those 4 things, and you'll outlast owners who spend triple at the dealership. That's it. You just went from nodding along to speaking the language. Next time someone fires a spec sheet at you, you'll know which numbers matter and which are marketing. If this cleared things up, hit like and subscribe. I've got plenty more coming on the stuff dealerships would rather you didn't understand. And if your car makes a noise you don't recognize, don't turn the radio up. I'll see you in the next one.